you geeks! We're starting a new book series this year, the Queen's Thief series by Whalen Turner.
Bring on the lovers, liars, and clowns.
So today, we're covering The Thief.
I steal only what I can afford.
Past attempts at new series have not gone well on this channel, but I've got a good feeling about this one. It is a young adult novel that starts with a polite nod to Tolkien's The Hobbit. Yet it is not pure fantasy, more of a myth along the lines of Till We Have Faces, but a lot lighter and a lot more fun. It doesn't have a magic system per se, but it may or may not have gods. And the adventure is pleasantly predictable right up until the point when it's not, and your mind explodes. At which point you question everything you just read and have no other choice but to go back and read it again and again and again. It does not get old. Now, I hope I gave you geeks enough time to read the story before this review, because now I will spoilerifically break down its characters, world building, and plot. But if you haven't read it yet, seriously, stop this video and go and read the darn book. It is that good. So, with everyone still here, let's talk Jen.
My real name is Eugene Fitzherbert.
Okay, fine. It's actually Eugenides. But that doesn't stop him from being a baby-faced rogue who can get away with anything. It's actually shocking to see some of the fan art that depicts him as like 12. When I think he's supposed to be 15 or 16, which makes it okay to ship him with other characters of a similar age. But shipping is just the beginning. The best part of Eugenides is that underneath all of his snark, there is a heart of gold who will not abandon his newfound friends in their hour of need, even if he is the one who put them in need to begin with. Since he is the one telling the story, you'd think you'd learn a lot about him right away. But no, he is playing the reader just as he plays the Magus and his other fellow characters. I'd say it was about the point when he mounted the horse by himself when I started to suspect that there was another game afoot.
Riff-raff, street rat, I don't buy that.
Turner does an excellent job of keeping Jen's humanly powers, if not realistic, then at least in line with what one would expect from a YA novel. If Inej, a street rat from the gutters of Ketterdam, can have special climbing shoes and ninja-like skills, then so too can Jen, a street rat from the gutters of Sunis. In fact, these common tropes of YA novels, having protagonists who know too much, are overskilled, and far too articulate for their age, lets Jen hide in the reader's plain sight as a nobleman pretending to be a thief and not the other way around. Though, of course, no one would ever accuse Jen of being mature.
Just you wait, in Regan's just you wait.
The revelation that he is in fact the Queen's thief of Eddis the whole time accounts for his education, skills, and admittedly insightful, if not simplistic, take on his world's politics. Though the sense that Jen the street rat is writing this story after he became the Queen's thief and had time for study does camouflage the fact that he probably knew all this info all along. In the end, I don't just love Jen for his sass and his wit, but because he uses them to help his friends, no matter how much he may protest against it. I sense a heart of gold and a young Pimpernel in the making.
Is he in heaven? Or is he in hell? That damned, elusive Pimpernel.
The Magus is one part wizard dad, quest organizer extraordinaire,
Hey, who's driving this flying umbrella?
and one part calculating political mastermind. You wouldn't think that would work, yet here we are, with a brilliant, believable politician who is actually staking his country's future on
hidden items of historic and intrinsic value.
A treasure map?
I suppose that to get ahead in politics, one has to take calculated risks. And it wasn't like he counted on the gods being real and that they would favor Eugenides over him. He had, after all, procured this mere gutter rat to do the dirty work, but was willing to actually treat him decently when he could have been a real jerk about it.
Giving you your reward.
Your eternal reward.
Like Eugenides, the Magus is not as cruel as he claims to be. In fact, I sense these two are truly kindred spirits. Both are advisors to their sovereign, and both are masters of foolhardy plans. Of course, the Magus is a bit more skilled at couching it in terms of well-researched and professional risk, but there is still a madness beneath the Magus's brilliance, and that keeps the story interesting. Sophos. Our little princeling! It truly shows how expendable Sunis thought his heir was, that he would send him on this quest from which no one has ever successfully returned before.
Unfortunately, one of them, my son Herbert, has just fallen to his death.
Makes me wonder if Aristotle ever took Alexander out for field trips.
Please let this be a normal field trip with a friend? No way!
Then again, I'm not sure if the King of Sunis was aware of all the little details of the Magus's quest. Sunis seems to be a very mentally direct man who has very little patience for the abstract thoughts of his Magus or his nephew. His dear, too sweet for this world nephew Sophos. At least his father sent Pole along to be Sophos's common sense and bodyguard. And Jen kept an eye out for him too. Though, with Pole gone, how is Sophos going to become the rightful king of Sunis and marry Eddis? I can see that plot coming from a mile away. At least he has Eddis's interest and therefore Jen's approval. So he's got pretty good odds of helping forge the alliance the Magus wants between Sunis and Eddis, hopefully before the Medes attack. Ambiades is unfortunately the exact sort of flat, one-note villain that you would expect to find in a YA novel, though he is enjoyable. I could have told you that he had taken the food, if only to spite Jen. In fact, it wasn't so much that Ambiades was a traitor that was shocking, but that the Queen of Aetolia was actually a villain.
Shame, shame.
I wished upon my multiple readings to find hidden character depths in Ambiades, yet the beginning and end of his character is broke, incel, traitor, and that is all. World building. Despite the flatness of some of its characters, the world of the thief is rich and alive because its gods are rich and alive. I love that Turner let her pagans be pagans, and not just pagans that are thinly veiled Christians, because that makes some sort of sense, Martin. Even though the new gods are worshipped in a basilica, which means princely or kingly from the term basileus.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
And that term wasn't used to describe a church until the Christian era. I'm willing to let it slide because the overall feel is in keeping with the ancient cultures who actually did switch gods from generation to generation. Anywho, Turner builds her world not just through the characters actively interacting with it, but through a growing favorite trope of mine.
It's story time.
Having the main plot stop so that the characters can sit around a campfire and tell stories that seem unrelated to what they're doing may seem boring to the typical reader, until it becomes clear that these stories are in fact epic foreshadowing for the rest of this book, if not the series. When Eugenides the god stole the thunderbolts, not once, but twice, I was expecting Eugenides the thief to do likewise. I do love a good lightning thief. Even though I was expecting it, I still actually missed the first time that he did it because Turner was sly AF. But in the end, I wasn't exactly surprised that Eugenides had retaken the stone, merely that he took it and then handed it to the Queen of Elis. Now that Jen's role as a little Eugenides and thief of mythical objects has been fulfilled, you have to wonder about Eugenides the god's quest for immortality, its bitter aftertaste, and his brother dying in his arms. Makes you wonder who Jen loves that will inevitably die in his arms. Yet, with all the sense of magic returning to the world, there is an equal postmodern sense of its departure. His cousin does what Frodo could not and yeeted the magical object into the volcano. This leaves the reader with an almost depressing aftertaste of when you grow up, you leave the gods and magic behind, which is slightly less fun than the rest of this tale.
How do you go on when in your heart you begin to understand there is no going back?
But there is still shipping to be had. Plot. From page 1, Turner sells us the story about the riffraff street rat thief who is going to go on this quest to become the Queen's thief named in her series. Once we learn that the kingdom Jen is in does not have a queen, but his neighboring countries do, it becomes a question merely of which queen will Jen abandon his captors for riches and glory and all that jazz. This is the rags to riches tale we've all heard before, enjoyed, and wouldn't mind reading again. This is what I was promised from the beginning, and these promises were all kept, but in a way I had not expected. Eugenides. Truth be told, I had my money on the Queen of Atolia earning Eugenides' loyalty. She couldn't be that bad. She is the titular character of the sequel, after all. But the Queen's Thief series, unlike certain other series that's not it. Unlike certain other series I like to pick on this channel, do not ruin the previous book's twists by putting them on the cover of the sequel. Upon discovering that Eugenides was Odyssean all along, rereading it is obvious. Every turn of phrase, every sentence, Jen hedges. He never lies, but he never tells the truth. It is brilliant. We didn't start the book back at the beginning. We started the book with the hook.
Your boss is quite a card player, Mr. Kelly. How does he do it?
He cheats.
And we follow Eugenides as he reels his prey in closer and closer until the sting. not only stealing the gift twice, but that he successfully delivers it to his queen, who is Eddis? I was shocked when he turned the Queen of Atolia down. She had treated him kindly, and surely he would take her offer to get up out of the Sunisian gutters.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Surely he would stay, and he's gone. To be sure, the run up the mountains to Eddis was a blast, because I did not see it coming. Since Eugenides and Atolia were, I thought, endgame, she was destined to capture him again. Besides, where else would a Sunisian gutter snipe go? But once the Odyssean guards just welcomed the 3 bedraggled travelers over the border and immediately ferried them to their queen, like the thief does this all the time, I guess, I began to suspect that there was once again something afoot with Eugenides. This is the greatest show! And it was nice to see Eddis welcome Jen home, if not warmly, then at least with familiar amusement. It is interesting that this book I had chosen because I'd heard good reviews and because of its female author has very few female characters, but the ones that do exist are in positions of power and are very different from each other. So this series has plenty of shipping fodder and hopefully mythology to drive it forward in the next books, which I very much intend on reading. All in all, this is a rather young adult book, with some fan art veering towards middle grade. A true artist can make even the most complex parts of their craft appear simple, and Whalen Turner does that here. I can't wait to finish the rest of this series. Please like, share, and subscribe if you would like to see more, and leave a comment telling me when you figured out Eugenides was the Queen's thief all along.